اللهم افتح علينا بنور العلم واحفظنا من ظلمات الوهم والجهل وحسن أخلاقنا بالحلم وانشر علينا من خزائن رحمتك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم اجعل هذا المجلس خالصا لوجهك الكريم وبعد. Now, so inshallah we continue with the book of assistance by Imam al-Haddad, and we'll just start from chapter 15 again from the beginning on conduct in mosque, inshallah. Tamam.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. On conduct in mosques. You must stay for a prolonged period in the mosque with the intention of withdrawal, itikaf, for mosques are the houses of God and the places most beloved to Him.
No. So in the hadith, Prophet ﷺ says, Abgadul biladi, ahabbul biladi masajid, the best places to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the mosques. Wa abgadul biladi Allah, and the most hated and abhorrent places to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, aswaquha, are the souks, are the marketplaces. So anywhere that takes you away from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He abhors those places. So the more they say, tell me what makes you happy and I'll tell you who you are. So similarly, if you go to the marketplaces and that's where you find the joy and the uns and you feel at place, then that tells you the inside, that tells you the state of affairs of your inside. If you find uns billah and bi masajidillah and with the places of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then these are the signs that you're looking for. Because most people, what do they ask? They ask, I don't know where I am. Does Allah love me? Does He not love me? Where am I in the whole journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There are signs everywhere. There are signs everywhere. If you look closely, you'll know where you are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-adhina lak, has He given you permission to enter the masajid 5 times a day, to sit in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And then when you do enter the masajid, how is your heart when you enter the masjid? Do you feel like, oh, I need to get out of here quickly, I need to get home? Or do you feel, you could sit there for a long period of time because you're in the masajid? Obviously, it's different if some guys are doing your head in the mosque and telling you to go topi on and do this or do that. That's different. I'm talking about being in the masjid itself. Sometimes you want to be in the masjid, but there are other factors that stop you from going to the masajid. That's different, tamam. It's about the state of affairs of your heart, where it is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hal adina lak bil Quran, has He allowed you to recite the Quran every single day? These are all signs, and one of the signs is your heart with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the masajid. Because those from the 7 that are given shade on the day of judgment are those what? Those people whose hearts were mu'allaq bil masajid, those hearts who were literally hanging in the masajid. So when they went home, it's as if they left their heart in the masjid, as if they were in the house, but they were thinking about the mosque. Again, it's not like your local mosque. We're not talking about like, Cheetham Hill Mosque and you don't want to go to VP. It's not about that. It's about the masajid, the places with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any mosque you were taken to, you'd feel uns there. Tamam? And we'll come on to a bit more conversation about that in a bit.
The Prophet ﷺ has said, the mosque is the house of all those who have taqwa. And when you see a man become accustomed to stay in the mosques, bear witness that he has faith.
No, so that's one of the greatest signs, is that those who frequent the masajid bear witness that he's someone of faith. And it's not an easy thing to do. Consistency and persistency in attending the masajid is not a small feat. Those people who can consistently 5 times every single day, rain, summer, whatever weather, spring, shine, whatever, they're there. Whether the Fajr Salah is at 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, doesn't matter. Yeah, it's difficult in the UK because of the time changes, they're so drastic, and our work routines, but there are people who even then still manage to make it to masajid and still have a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So bear witness that those people, they have iman in their heart. So connecting to the masajid becomes what? A symbol and a sign of your faith itself. Tamam? Yallah.
God the Exalted has said, He only shall attend God's mosques who believes in God and the last day. And the Prophet ﷺ included amongst the seven whom God will shade under his throne on the day when no shade shall exist save his, a man whose heart remained attached to the mosque from the moment he left it until his return.
No. And most of us, unfortunately myself included, our hearts aren't attached to masajid. They're attached to what? This little screen here. That's what they're attached to in reality. I don't know, it's a cliche, we hear it all the time. The problem is, it's true. The problem is that we have this phantom limb that we live with that we're really attached to is this thing here. Such that you probably hear it in your salah, something ringing, or you're probably thinking about your next WhatsApp message or your text. The thing is, you need to have some time where you're not attached to this. This thing is ruining a lot of our lives, because even when you're in the masjid, you pull this out. So this guy's doing a talk, and you watching your text message or your Insta or your face or whatever it is. You're not in the masjid. You're not there for the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here, mu'allaq billah, you're there for the right reasons. Tamam, you're actually there for Allah's sake. What? Establish prayer, li dhikri, for my remembrance. The masajid are for the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No.
You must, when sitting in a mosque, have good manners and respect, and refrain from unnecessary, not to mention prohibited talk.
No, so in our madhab is makruh tahreem, severely offensive to talk about anything that's worldly in the masajid. And the masajid here is what was initially in the blueprint when it's made, what was defined as the masjid itself. So if I built this, because what we have is something called waqf. Waqf is when you give this piece of land for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tamam? This doesn't exist in British law. You can't give a piece of land for Allah's sake, for God's sake. It doesn't exist. Tamam? The concept doesn't exist. So in Islamic societies, say someone has a piece of land or a farm or something, and they said, you know what, he's on his deathbed, or he wants to just anyway, he will donate that piece of land for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he'll say either this piece of land or this building is for orphans. So till the end of day, this building must be used for the benefit of orphans. As in, the beneficiaries of this land are masakin. That's why in the books of fiqh, this whole debate happens in what? In ayman, in oaths. Because if I say, I give this building for masakin, who's a miskin now? I have to define who's a miskin. If I say fuqara, then who's a fakir? If I say so they have this discussion between the meanings of words in the chapter of oaths, because the beneficiary is what? I've got to define who the beneficiary is here. So the Shafi'is differ, and the Hanafis differ, who a miskin is and who a fakir is. Tamam? But the point is that here you can also give your land for Allah's sake, masjidan, as a place where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is worshipped. That land till the end of times remains a masjid. Because it's Allah's, this land is now Allah's, nobody else's. That's why in India, when they destroyed the Babri Masjid, that was a great calamity for the Muslims, because that land even now, doesn't matter what you create on it, it's still a masjid. So even the masajid in Spain, in Cordoba and all these masajid, regardless of what people make it, it can never be taken away now. It can never be. There's a whole discussion here, is if the person who gave it, if he can take back his claim, as if he can say, okay, you know what, I don't want it to be masjid. There's a Imam Abu Hanifa has an opinion on it, and there's a difference of it, but generally you can't go back on that now. Once it's been given, it's given. That piece of land is a masjid till eternity. That's why there are lands that were given as waqf and endowments. So waqf is an endowment to what? The great masajid and universities of the old, so Azhar and places like that. They have massive endowments, tamam. So people they were rich people. So because here we look at organizations, most people say, oh well, we should endowments. We need to stop. The thing is, you need what we call philanthropists to give land as endowment, and that's how it begins. If I have 5 houses, you would say if you're, inshallah, you all have long lives, but say if you wanted to, donate something to a good cause towards the end of your life, you would say this house here is going to, for example, Kuba initiative, tamam? That house now is theirs for the work that Kuba does forever. So all the rent money and everything, you can't sell that now. You can't sell the house off. That house must be used for the beneficiaries that the guy stipulated. Tamam? If he said use it for whatever good you wanted to, that's fine as well. Then you have someone who is what? Amin al-Waqf, someone who looks after these properties and these endowments. Tamam? Anyway, we're getting off track. The point is that a mosque is given for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The land is given for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this whole concept that trustees run the masajid is khata, is wrong. You are umana al-waqf. You are trustees upon the endowment given by the people who, like for example, the locality who donated money for this plot of land for it to be for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your job is not to say this is going to happen and that's not going to happen and we don't allow this. And no, your job is to make sure that the intention is fulfilled, as in this place remains a masjid, and you're a servant in that regard, meaning that your whole job is to serve the people that come in that masjid, make it easy for them, provide them with facilities, keep it clean, etc. And you get the reward for that. But your job is not to say what happens, like they say, you know, this guy's not coming, that guy, and then start fighting over things like that. If that's the purpose, then it's not your dad's house. The house is the masjid and it's for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, tamam.
If you feel like talking about something worldly, go out of the mosque.
So it's easy. The Jamaat in the musalla, in the congregational area, there's no need to talk about anything worldly per se. So what, before we were getting to, before we forgot to mention is that, so if you've got the musalla, the prayer area, that has been defined as the masjid. Those areas outside, so for example, the vestibule or the prayer where you put the shoes, that's not the masjid per se, unless they define it as the masjid when they built the masjid in the first place. They said, you know, all this area is the masjid. If that's the case, then that is also considered the masjid, even if you put your shoes there. But most people, they don't consider the foyer and all these places as a masjid. It's the actual musalla that's been considered the masjid. What folk, everything on top is also considered a masjid, and everything below is also normally also considered a masjid. So that piece of land up and below is all considered masjid. Why is it important? Fiqh wise, is because a menstruating woman can't enter that piece of land. She can't enter that masjid. So if there is a foyer, she can enter the foyer, she can enter the vestibule, but she can't enter the masjid. And I reiterate this because there are people who allow menstruating women to enter the masajid. Certain scholars, even Hanaf scholars who are a bit more free liberal, is that they allow, and you know, someone who's for teaching purposes or studying purposes, the darura, la, it's not allowed. Khilaf al-ijma, it's not allowed for a woman to enter the masajid. There's debate whether she can yamur bil masajid, whether she can pass through, not sit, pass through. For example, her house is here and she's here, and there's a route through the masjid to her house. There's a debate whether she can walk through it or instead of going all the way around, but not to sit in the masjid. Even that's not allowed in our madhab, but some people debate it, as in the other madhab and stuff. But in general, you're not allowed. Masajid is not allowed for menstruating women to enter. That's why you must define first what is the masjid. Tamam?
Occupy yourself in it exclusively with worship, for it was built only for the worship of God. He has said, exalted is He, in houses which God has allowed to be raised, and that His name shall be remembered therein, and He be glorified morning and evening by men whom neither merchandise nor sale distract from remembering God. Establishing the prayer and giving the zakat, they fear a day when hearts and eyes shall be overturned, that God may reward them with the best of what they did and increase reward for them for His bounty. God gives freely to whom He will. When you enter the mosque, do so with your right foot and say, Bismillahi wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah, Allahumma firli dhunubi wa ftahli abwaba rahmatik. In the name of God, may blessings and peace be upon the Messenger of God. Forgive me my sins and open for me the gates of your mercy.
No, so here's the etiquette and adab of engaging in the mundane, what you might see as the mundane. So, for example, you might just as a masjid, you enter, put your right foot in, left foot in, what does it matter? Tamam. But those who want to convert and transform their mundane to be more connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every little act is of significance. Every little act becomes significant. So it's not a point, it's not that, oh, I put my right foot in left. That's not the point. The point is that when you enter the masjid, you have presence, you have hudur with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh, khalas, I'm about to enter the masjid. It brings you back down. So when I remember that, okay, I need to enter now with my right foot, because this is what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did, it brings you back down to what you're about to do. So it's a way of bringing your presence back to the act and the matter at hand and the issue at hand. I'm about to enter the masjid. So remember, the masjid again is not where you put your shoes in the middle. You've got to remember, when you enter the musalla, that's normally the masjid. So when you enter the musalla, that's really where you need to be entering with your. So someone might enter the masjid with the right foot and enter the musalla with the left foot. The masjid here itself really is the musalla itself. So enter the musalla with your right foot. And these are the adab and etiquettes of the awliya who they never left. So some people, they very, they sort of, what do you call that, disdain and what we call istighfaf, they take it like, oh, it's just all adab, etiquettes. La. Adab can take you to kufr. Not having adab, not having etiquette can take you to kufr. Tamam? Not leaving a third prayer, not with disdain, just leaving it, is not kufr. But not having the right etiquette and adab and disrespect can lead to kufr. Leaving salah, a third prayer, because you were tired or not tired, sorry, but you missed it or you forgot about it, it's not kufr. Tamam? It's a major sin to leave prayer if it's not done for disdain. Tamam? But leaving a salah disrespectfully, as in not having the right adab or etiquette and respect towards those things in the deen that need to have respect, can be kufr. For example, chucking the Quran out of disrespect. You drop it, that's fine. Tamam? It's not fine, but as in you did it by mistake. Tamam? It's an accident. But choking the Quran, that's kufr right there. Why? Disrespect. No etiquette, no adab. That's why the ulama said respect is the pivot around everything that everything revolves around. So the ulama, if you don't respect them, it could be very like Allah Alam if they consider it kufr, but because they what we call sha'air of the deen, these people, they are like, they're holders of like the truth in the Quran, and you're being disrespectful to them, or the Quran, or the masajid, spitting in the masjid, for example, on purpose. These things can lead to kufr. Tamam? So you got to be very careful. Etiquettes are very important. In this day and age, it's vital that we teach ourselves and our children respect and adab. Honestly, it is something that is totally lacking. Totally lacking. It's not something extra. It's not a bonus. Or you know what? Yeah, he's praying over here, but it's not extra. Controlling the tongue, when how guests come in the house, how to be with elderly people, how to look after young people, how to be with parents, how to serve guests. These are all etiquettes that you should know, how to be in the masjid, how to not be like, talk loudly in front of like ulama or adults or other people. These are all things you have to learn. If you don't learn it, how are your children going to learn it? And if your children don't learn it, khalas, we've lost the ummah. Because this is what happens, you get married, and what happens? There's no insijam, there's no harmony there, because you don't know how to live, you don't know how to sort of speak. These are all lack of adab and culture. Tamam? And adab here is a category bigger than sunan or the sunnas. So you have adab, it's like a greater umbrella. In the adab, you can have sunnas, you can have mustahabbat, you can have fara'id and wajibat. So there's a fiqhi adab. So when I say fiqh, this is adab, it has a certain terminology. But here adab is an umbrella that puts within fara'id, wajibat, sunan, mustahab, all of it can come under this category of etiquette. As I said, sometimes the etiquette can be followed. Sometimes it's wajib, sometimes it's mustahab, the things you have to learn. And there are genres in Islam, there are books in Islam that teaches these adab and etiquettes. Tamam? If you go to the Arab world and you sit with people who are rooted in culture, or even the subcontinent, and they're rooted, as in, when I say rooted, I mean they come from a tradition, things that pass down from father to father, ancestor to ancestor. So maybe some of the ancestors, they were very cultured and educated, and these things get passed down. So you see, a lot of us, unfortunately, Allah A'lam by you lot, but you don't come from cultured families. We come from, like village families where it's fine, but it's like sort of, in the UK, some guy who goes Eton is not the same as some guy who's born and bred in, a street in Rochdale. They get taught adab, etiquette. The ulama, the awliya, that there's a class in the Muslim world likewise who have very high etiquette and adab. These things normally get passed down. There's a certain type of mashayikh that you meet, they will literally do everything with purpose. Even put a pen top on with purpose. As in, they will hold it and they will slowly put the pen top on and they will slowly put it down, and then they'll get the chair, they'll sit down. I've seen it in my own eyes. They'll get the key, they'll turn it with it. They have presence with everything. Nothing's haphazard, nothing at all. Everything is done with presence. Every little act, and they are literally, you cannot get them angry. Why? Because they're fully with Allah all times. They're always calm, relaxed, chilled, everything. They're making sure they're doing it in line with the Sharia, and they are present. Those people are strong people. They are the mighty ones. You know why? Because there's no muzabzab there. Well, Allah says muzabzabina bayna dhalika. They don't go from being really pious to what? Then sinful, then pious, then I want to do it, then I don't want to do it. Like, they've mastered the self. At each moment, they can be with Allah, whether they're a mundane act, like marking an exam or talking to someone, or whether in the salah. At each time, they're with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, present with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these little etiquettes and adab, they're the things that keep you present with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why the sunan, if you look at them as the Prophet did it, so I need to just put my right hand. So when you teach children, it happens all the time. Have you learned the dua? Yeah. Have you learned the dua? Yeah, okay. But you're not going to recite it because you've not taught them the purpose for the dua. That look, you've come out of the masjid now. Allahumma inni saluka min fadlika wa rahmat. You've just prayed to Allah. You're just such a big grace and blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just allowed us to pray to Him, and you've made dua. Now ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His fadl and for His rahmah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts your prayer from you. Tamam? That you're entering the masjid now. Allahumma aftah li abwab rahmatik. That Allah, imagine you're entering the presence of Allah and ask Allah that He opens these doors for you always, just like you enter into Jannah, that Allah opens these doors for you. If you don't give them the context, it doesn't make sense. It's like you just telling them to do rote memorization, like, okay, pray this now, pray that now, do this now, do that. You've got to give context to these things. The sunnah is contextual. It's not contextual. Everything has a context. That the Prophet ﷺ did this for a reason. Tamam? No.
Do not sit down before you pray 2 rakas. If for any reason you are unable to pray, say 4 times, Subhanallah walhamdulillahi wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. When you leave, do so with your left foot and say what you did when you entered. Only use abwaba fadlik, the gates of your favor, instead of abwaba rahmatik. And add, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem wa junudih. I seek God's protection against Satan, the repudiate, and his legions. When you hear the call to prayer, repeat what the muezzin says until he says, Hayya ala salah, hasten to the prayer, and Hayya ala al-falah, hasten to success. When you should say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, there is neither ability nor strength save by God.
No. So the adhan is the beginning of that presence of prayer. So next chapter we move on to salah. So one of the main ways of being present in salah is that when the adhan is being recited, to start being present with the adhan. So what we call answering the adhan. Tamam, in the madhab, there's either wajib or mustahab. There's some say mustahab, some says wajib to answer the adhan. If we say it's wajib, the ulama say, well, when the adhan's done, you stop eating, you stop talking, you stop even close the Quran, and you concentrate, because the act of the moment is what? You see, repeating or answering the adhan. So in the moment, all of the actions are stopped, and you just focus on. And those who, when the adhan's happening, some of the ulama say when the adhan's happening and you purposefully, obviously if you're teaching or there's something going on and you need to speak, that's khalas, you've got a reason. But if you purposefully ignore it, then there's feared a bad ending for those people. Tamam? Those people who purposefully don't answer the adhan, ignore it, or consider it something, oh, it's just the adhan, whatever. Tamam? So adhan is your beginning now, that call from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, come, I'm calling you now to enter my presence. Tamam? That invitation has now arrived from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hayya ala al-falah. Come to success, come to prayer. Tamam? Here, so it doesn't become what? Ridicule. Because what you have to do is say, when the Imam says, when the Mu'adhin says Allahu Akbar, you say Allahu Akbar. You repeat the same. When the Mu'adhin says Hayya ala Salah, come to Salah, it's sort of considered mockery for you then to say, what, Hayya ala Salah, come to Salah. They say, don't say the same thing, because he's saying Hayya ala Salah, you're saying to him Hayya ala Salah. Tamam? So to repeat here, they say, say La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-azim. Tamam? And in the Fajr Salah, when he says As-salatu khayrun min al-nawm, that prayer is better than sleep, then there's in our madhab sadaqta wa bararta wa barirta. There's few different phrases that you can say. Tamam? Sadaqta wa bil haqqi nataqta, that you said the truth and you've spoken the truth. There's few different phrases that you can say when he says as-salatu khayrun min al-nawm, and when he says hayya ala salah and hayya ala falah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyil azim. And there's great reward for those who answer the adhan. Tamam?
And when he says as-salatu khayrun min al-nawm, prayer is better than sleep, say sadaqta wa barar, you are indeed truthful and loyal. When the call is finished, bless the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then say اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمد الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقام المحمود الذي وعدته. O God, Lord of this complete call and imminent prayer, give Muhammad the intercession and superiority, and resurrect him to a praiseworthy rank, even as you have promised him. Pray dua as much as you can between the adhan and the iqamah. Since he has said, may bless sallallahu alayhi wasallam, prayers uttered between the two calls are never refused.
No. So then after you've prayed the adhan, you make the dua. Maqam al-Mahmud, this praise station of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, some have said is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he will make his dua for the ummah of the Prophet, or for the whole of creation, not for the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, qada, when he makes the dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he prostrates in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when all of the prophets will not be allowed to say anything, or their dua will not be accepted, or their intercession will not be accepted. There's only one person who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would allow to speak in front of the whole of creation, which is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you, me and I are from the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is one of the greatest blessings that we are all in every single day. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Qurratu Aini is in what? Is in prayer. That the people who preceded us, because they understood the blessing that they were in, they always wanted to make the Prophet ﷺ happy. That, that he could what? Show pride and boast about his ummah to the other prophets, to the other people. Said, this is my ummah, look, Fulan is from my ummah, he wrote this book, he praised this much. And you'll see some of the narrations later on that that's how they were. So this is your connection to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that you remember that he is from those who will intercede on your behalf, we call them Maqam al-Mahmud. But all of creation will witness the station of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on that day. Those who don't recognize it here will recognize it there. everyone. It's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to make sure that everyone recognizes the status of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that his martaba is azima, that he has the greatest rank of any man, of any person, of any creation, is the rank of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we have in this ummah, we have those who have inherited the mirath, the inheritance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what we call the warithun, the kummal. We have ulama, then we have what we call the warithun. The warithun are those who have inherited the states of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ilman, knowledge-wise, wa amalan, in his acts, wa ahwalan, and in his states. That they're not someone's, you see, you could have people who inherit parts of the prophetic inheritance. So they have knowledge, or they have the adab, or they have the looks, or they follow parts of the prophetic inheritance. Then they have what we call the wurrath al-kamilun, who inherit the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's inheritance completely. As in, they like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in all affairs. Those are rare to find. And so when you find someone like that, stick with that person. So that's your journey in life. You know how you like work out how you're going to buy that house and how you're going to get married, and you do research and you go on Google and you spend years and hours and 5, 6, 7 years in university, because what? You have a hadaf, an objective at the end of it. This is your objective in life too. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likewise has given you, made you responsible of cleansing your own self and soul. It's not like a bonus that, oh, you know, if I do it, I do it. If I don't, then khalas. It's not bonus. The Imam al-Shadili would say, "Man lam yatawaggal fi ilmina hadha mata wa huwa musirrun ala al-kaba'ir." He said, one who does not engross himself in this knowledge of ours dies and he is persistent upon major sins, or he will die and he will be persistent upon major sins. That's the Abu Hasan al-Shadili. That's his statement. Man lam yatawaggal fi, not just learning about it. Al-wughul is like entering completely, submitting yourself completely in this science. Otherwise you'll die and you won't even realize that what? You're engaging in major sin. That's what Shaykh Muhammad Sayyid Ramadan al-Bhuti has a little pamphlet type book, and it's called Batin al-Ithm, and it's translated, it's called Inner Sin or Inward Sin. Tamam? So read it. It's only small, so like maybe 30, 40 pages. Tamam? And he talks about how mushkilatuna, our problem as a ummah, is akhlaqiyya. That is a problem of character, meaning the inside character. It's not a problem of we don't know. It's not ilmiya. It's not knowledge-wise. We all know what to do. We know the couch potatoes at home. You know, we all sit there and we have a good argument about this, that, and we should do this, and the mosque should do that, and khalas. And then someone says to you, what? Then come on Friday, and you know we'll make a plan on Friday, and we'll sort the masjid out, or you know we'll do the hoovering, or you know let's organize a project, a class. I've got a wedding on Friday. I need to go. Problems here. Limada, because you feel that what if I engage in this, then what's going to happen? My sustenance will decrease. I don't have time, because what? If I do this, then on Friday I can't work, and then I won't get rizq, and so you don't have what we call tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you think you've not done anything wrong. You think that, you know, I'm just busy, so I'm not doing this. But really deep down, you're doing it because you don't have tawakkul in Allah. And that's a major sin. So without you realizing that you're engaging in major sins, then you don't realize it. That's why they say that the sins of the heart are akbah wa afhash. They're more abhorrent and dangerous than sins of the outward. Because the sins of the outward, you can see them. You can see them. I don't pray, khalas. I can see I don't pray. I lie. I swear. I can tell. The sins of the heart, la ahad yattali'. Nobody sees them except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And not only that, then you can fool yourself to believe that you don't have these sins. You're not arrogant. I'm not arrogant. Someone says, no, me, I'm not arrogant. Then you're what? Stingy. No, not me. I'm not stingy. I'm not. Trust me. That's why Imam Shaykh Muhammad Sayyid Ramadan, he has another book, and in there he says that the European culture they suffer from two illnesses that it's their downfall, and it's stinginess and arrogance. And he says that, and the thing is, it's seeping into our culture as well. And he gives an example. He says you have a daughter, so he uses the books about women, and he says how they get to an adult stage, and then it's like, oh, I'm not going to pay for you now. You're 16, you can work, you can go and fend for yourself. He goes, that's stinginess there, right there. He goes, parents, they don't want to spend money on even their own children anymore. It's like, oh, go work. Oh, she's a woman, she's a girl, why are you sending her out to work as in there's a need, class, but there's no need to spend, give her money and keep her at home and teach her and let her do something else fruitful with her life. No, because what? We think that success is only what? You have to work and bring money in the house. So, and if you're not, then you're not successful. So, there's a brother the other day who was saying the same thing. Oh, Fulana, she works and she looks after the children and she does this and mashallah, she's really good. There's no stipulation to work and bring money in. You do know that. Everybody, if you've got the money, there's no stipulation to put you outside in a harm's way. Allah, sit at home, relax, chill, read, work, do something productive with your life, or do something that is, if you've got the money, if you need it, khalas, that's fine. But we suffer from what? The point is what we call taqdeer, stinginess, which is from a major sin of the heart. It's another major sin. So there are multiple major sins that we engage in if we don't engage in what we call tazkiyat al-nufus, remedying and getting rid of these spiritual illnesses that we all have.
Amongst the prayers which have been handed down for this time is Allahumma inni as'aluka afiyat ad-dunya wal akhirah. Oh God, I ask you for wholesomeness in this world and the hereafter. This prayer is recommended in the Sunnah for other times as well, so use it often, for it is one of the best and most comprehensive of all prayers.
No. Al-afiyah is, la tansa nasibaka min ad-dunya. So don't forget your nasib, your portion of the world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. So we're not what we call ruhban, we're not monks. We don't disassociate ourselves or completely disconnect ourselves from the world that we live in. You see, Islam is probably the most balanced religion, because obviously Islam is the truth. There are all other religions. There are other religions, what we call tafrit and ifrat. They go towards being really lax. There's no rules, do as you please. And there are religions that are really extreme. You can't do anything. You can't eat, you can't even use the lift on a Sunday, and you can't even touch your wife when she's menstruating, as in it goes to extremes. Whereas the Prophet ﷺ, wasata, that it's a moderate and a balanced religion. And literally anything you have, Islam will have the solution for those things. No doubt that Islam will have a solution for all of those things. So here he says, al-afiyah, that we want a life where we want to live in a sort of spiritual, we don't want to suffer. Islam is about suffering. So we don't want to suffer in this world, and we ask Allah that He doesn't allow us to suffer in the next world as well. It's not about suffering, it's not about living a hard life and toil and turmoil. No. We ask Allah that He makes it easy for us, that He doesn't make us do anything that we can't cope with. And Allah is capable of doing that. And likewise in the hereafter, that He gives us what? Afiyah. So the Prophet ﷺ, he always commanded us to seek afiyah in this world and in the hereafter, because if you seek something else and Allah tests you with that, you won't be able to handle it. Your patience will be tested. If He tests you with that, there's fear that you won't be able to have the patience to undergo those tests and tribulation. So the Prophet ﷺ commands us never ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to place fitan or anything like. Always ask Allah for good, and ask Allah that He doesn't test you more than you can cope with. No.
Chapter 16 on the ritual prayer. You must pray as soon as the time for each prayer comes. You should perform your ablutions and come to the mosque by the time of the call, adhan, for the obligatory prayers.
Miftah salah, the key to prayer is wudu. The key to prayer is wudu. If you want khushu, if you want humility, if you want presence in prayer, the key to it is in your wudu. As much presence you have in your wudu, as much presence that you have in wudu, that much presence you'll have in salah. And so the wudu becomes this key towards having presence and attention in the prayer that you pray. So if I do wudu, without even, just put the tap on, khalas, get off and pray, you most likely won't be connected in your prayer, or you won't be attentive in your prayer. You'll be all over the show. So there's what we call isti'dad lis-salah. There's a preparation that happens for your prayer. And one of them, as we mentioned before, is the adhan, listening to the adhan and answering to the adhan. Another one, a major one, is the wudu. That's why if you look at Imam al-Ghazali in Bidayat al-Hidayah, which is again a very short book, but pivotal book, he has so many azkar, du'as and supplications for what? Wudu. So at each point in your wudu, you remember a part of the journey of the hereafter. Your hands, your hellfire, your nose smelling Jannah, or you're asking refuge from the shackles of hell, or when you wiping your hair, that Allah protect you from your hair being burned, or when you're on the sirat, you ask that Allah doesn't let your feet slip when you're washing your feet. You ask Allah that He doesn't let your feet slip on the sirat, on the bridge. So at each moment you're present, you're present, you're present. This is tasawwuf. This is tasawwuf Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. You see, tasawwuf, there's tasawwuf falsafi, philosophical tasawwuf. Don't enter that maidan. If you enter that maidan, you'll be lost. It's a maze. Tamam? And there's tasawwuf pretense. I follow so and so Shaykh, I've got this, I wear a certain type of clothing. All of this, la yanfa. But there's tasawwuf Ahlus Sunnah, which is what? Al-amal, which is action. Tamam? Which is to do and to perfect your actions with sincerity. And so that's why Imam al-Ghazali, his focus in the beginning is what? Is action. Don't fake yourself. Don't say, oh yeah, I'm a Sufi, I'm this, I'm that. Until you can't master the self, and you can't do simple things like this. The first thing Imam al-Ghazali says in that book, if you look, the first thing he talks about is waking up. And he says wake up before Fajr. Does he wake up at Sahar time, what we call pre-dawn time? That's the first command. If you try to follow his book, most of us will fall at the first command in his book. Forget everything that comes after it. First thing he says is every day try and wake up before Fajr. That's all he says. Let's just try and implement that one. Then we'll move on to the wudu and the rest of it. Come on. There you find where you're at with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not easy, is it? It's what we call sahal mumtani. It's easy, but you're also barred at the same time. Because it's easy for who Allah makes it easy for. That's why you can't make or remedy, you can't cure your own self. You need the wasa'il, and wasa'il are the means, and from the means is the prayer and dua and supplications. From the means is a shaykh and a teacher. From the means is following the sunnah and the adab and etiquette. But the real cause of remedying the self is Allah. So unless you connect to Allah, you never cure the self. That's why Allah says, فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. In the end, he says, oh, the shaitan will do this to you, and he'll do this to you, and he will take you off the path. And in the end, says, فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ. There's no cure to the shaitan except with Allah. Because who created shaitan in first place? It was Allah. So you don't have any saitara, you don't have any power over shaitan, like, even though he's weak. You can when you bring Allah in the equation. So your life can be turned 180 degrees and become amazing if you seek Allah's help. Tamam? So here we have on the ritual prayer, you must pray as soon as the time for each prayer comes in. This isn't necessarily true in our madhab. Tamam? So we have certain times where it's called mustahab, recommended times for prayer. So Dhuhr has a time. In summer it's later because it's cooler. In Asr time, it's considered to pray later, better, not when it initially comes in. Tamam. Maghrib, you pray straight away. So it's makruh to delay Maghrib prayer. So when the adhan comes in our madhab, you don't pray any sunnahs or anything like that. You must pray Maghrib straight away. And Isha in the last third, after the first third of the night has gone. Tamam. So it's mustahab to pray then. Fajr, when it's what we call isfar, when the sky is yellowing, so maybe like half an hour before sunrise, it's recommended to pray Fajr then. Tamam. In the Shafi'i school is what Imam al-Haddad says here, to pray straight away. So they'll pray Fajr and what we call Galas, which is when the night is still dark. We only pray Fajr when it's night is still dark at Muzdalifah. That's why Sunnah to pray when the night is still dark, what we call Galas at Muzdalifah. But throughout the whole year, we pray in our madhab when the sky is starting to yellow, what we call Isfar. Tamam? But there must be enough time left that if you needed to perform wudu or ghusl again and recite the Quran, the recommended amount in Fajr, that you will have the time to do so. So you're not looking at 5 minutes before sunrise, you're looking at about a good 20 to 30 minutes before sunrise, tamam? So you can pray the recommended amount, and if you needed to repeat repeat the prayer again, you would be able to do that in that time. So this you learn in the books of fiqh. It's not the time to learn it here, but I'm just saying because Imam al-Haddad is following a different madhab, you need to understand that our madhab says different to this. Tamam?
When you do not, you should at least begin to get ready for the prayer immediately upon hearing the call. The Prophet ﷺ has said, the superiority of the beginning of the time assigned to each prayer over its end is like the superiority of the hereafter over this world. And at the beginning of the period is the good pleasure of God, and at its end is His forgiveness. Take care always to perform the regular sunnahs described in the law, which are those before the obligatory prayer and those after.
No, so these are called the rawatib. Tamam? There's 12 sunnah units that are called the rawatib. Tamam? These have a very emphasized importance after the fara'id salah. So the 4 before Dhuhr and the 2 after it. The 2 after Maghrib, the ones that you already know of, the 2 after Isha, the 2 before Fajr, tamam. These are all, and what we call the rawatib, the 12. Anything after that, the 12, if you're not, they are of a lesser rank. They're still sunnahs, but they're of a lesser rank. But the 12 that you must try and always establish are the 12 that I've just mentioned, tamam. Anything extra that you pray is class, it's good. But there are 12 that you mustn't leave. So for example, the 2 before Fajr, you must never leave those 2 because they are close to being wajib, such that those 2 you can't even pray sitting down. So the other sunnahs, without an excuse, you can pray a nafil salah, which the sunnah is part of sitting down, tamam. But the Fajr ones you can't. They are of utmost importance to pray. So you can't leave them. So I'll just pray. No, you must try and make sure those 2 units you pray, tamam. The Prophet ﷺ said those 2 units of Fajr are better than the world and everything in it. Everything in the world, and it's just 2 units of those sunnah prayers before Fajr. Tamam? So this is what we call the rawatib. Okay, rawatib. So don't just pray forward and come out. Because some people, what they do, go pray forward and start to just walk out quickly. It's like this sort of cool way of praying salah nowadays. I've done my forward, assalamu alaikum warahmatullah, assalamu alaikum warahmatullah, they get up and they're gone. Tamam? That's not the way of praying salah, tamam. After you prayed salah, Allahu A'lam if it comes later on, you sit for a moment. Because at this moment is the moment of what we call waridat ilahiyya, what we call sort of inspirations and the anwar and the lights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they descend at this point. So you sit for a moment and you wait for what comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't leave. Similarly after dhikr. After any type of form of dhikr that you do, sit for a moment and see what Allah inspires you with. See what He thrusts into your heart. And there'll normally be meanings that come to you, inspirations that speak to you, that after sessions of dhikr or salah or any types of remembrance like that. But it needs what? Stillness. It needs stillness, solitude. You must be in tune with yourself. It's not like Allah, Allah, and then and then you got off and it's like that. You have to be present with the meanings. You've got to be present in salah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. You're thinking about what? The angels on the right, the angels on the left. You're thinking about who I'm sat in front of, where I am, and then you wait for these anwar to descend upon your heart. Tamam? No.
Beware of missing any of them out of complacency, and if ever you do miss any with an excuse, then perform them as soon as possible. Have reverence and an attentive heart when you pray. Perfect your standing, intone the Quran and meditate on it. Perfect your bowing, prostration, and all the other essential acts.
No, so here what we call tuma'nina, which is composure. When the Prophet ﷺ saw one of the Sahaba and he prayed, but he was what? He was praying really quickly. He was standing up, praying, going up and down. The Prophet ﷺ said, repeat your prayer, you haven't prayed. Tamam? And he did that twice or three times in the hadith, I forgot. But the Prophet ﷺ told him that if you pray, have tuma'nina, have composure in your prayer. Don't pray like a chicken, like what we call, a hen or chicken, whatever we call it, a rooster, up and down, tamam? Pray and have composure. So, so when you in ruku, you must have stillness for the length of what? Subhanallah. For it to at least say Subhanallah. Your limbs must be still at least for that moment. Tamam? When you in sajda likewise, at least for a moment. Tamam? So this stuff, again, you learn in the books of fiqh, but this is what we call tuma'nina. So don't pray like quickly, oh yeah, I prayed, I've done everything. La. You might have fulfilled the fard, but it doesn't mean that it's been accepted with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tamam? So you must make sure that you fulfill the rules that are in our Sharia.
Be careful also to observe those sunnahs and good manners which are indicated in the law, and avoid anything that may either impair the prayer or just prevent it from being perfect. If you conform to this, your prayer will emerge white and glowing, and it will say, may God safeguard you as you have safeguarded me. Otherwise it will come out black and dark and will say, may God ruin you as you have ruined me. The Prophet has said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, only that of which the believer is conscious during his prayer is credited to him. Al-Hasan al-Basri, may God be pleased with him, has said, every prayer in which the heart is not attentive is nearer to punishment than it is to reward. Satan, may God curse him, is intent on distracting the believer during his prayer, so that the moment he rises to pray, he opens for him many doors into worldly affairs and reminds him of things which were not at all on his mind before.
And I'm sure we all, we sort of understand that statement very well. There's no need for any explanation whatsoever for that statement. So, is when you enter the prayer, khalas, you get the floodgates, you open the dams, broken, every thought, everything you've done for the last year, day, minute, hour, everything comes in your life, childhood, anything that you've done comes in prayer. You see, this is the point of what we call traversing the path. Because the first thing that you learn in traversing the path is how to remove or control your thoughts. See, if you can't control your thoughts outside of prayer, you won't be able to control them within the prayer. And the purpose of all the forms of the practices, what we call spiritual practices or exercises, is to master the self so you can engage in true worship itself. So you can learn from moderns to an extent. There's no harm in it whatsoever. If you read books on stillness or meditation or anything like that, you can learn from them techniques. It's fair. There's nothing wrong in it whatsoever. But they'll only get you to a certain stage. They can't take you to the full end because they themselves don't understand the self fully themselves. They only understand something that they've experienced. So their knowledge is experiential. The knowledge that we have is from Allah Himself, the creator of the self itself. So our knowledge is more complete of the self. Tamam. The thing is, what I get baffled about is that we have everything. Our ulama have discussed everything. The answers to every problem you can fathom, our ulama have discussed it and given you a remedy for it. Anything you can discuss, anything at all, from meditation to thoughts to wasawis to anything at all, the answer lies with our ulama and our tradition and the Prophet. There's nothing that this deen cannot answer. Nothing. The problem is that we don't have thicker with it. We don't take it with confidence and trust. It's as if we sort of look at them with all these old uncles that, they spoke about stuff, but they didn't really get it. These people were on it. If you look at the modern books and when they talk about psychology and self-help, it's like a drop in the ocean to what our ulama have already spoken about. Drop in the ocean. If you look at the people like Ghazali and how they speak about the self, it's taken them what? We're in 2023 and now they get into certain points about things that we've spoken about 1,000 years ago. We've got it all there. The thing is, we haven't got the takers for it. We haven't got those who are going to say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to take this. This is my tradition. This is who I am. And a Muslim, I'm from this tradition. These were my ulama. These are the people I affiliate to. I'm an affiliate of so-and-so imam, or I read such and such a book. We'd rather read or engage in something by a disbeliever, which is fair enough. As I said, you can benefit from, but it's not going to give you the light that you need. You know, like what Shaykh was saying the other day, that you know that you have desires. And one of the ways of helping yourself is to read salawat. Reading the Dalail al-Khairat, it helps you overcome the weaknesses of the self, you know, addictions and things like that. So you could say, well, how's that going to help? You know, I'm going to go to such and such doctor and he's going to give me a pill. Because the addiction is from, who's going to help you stop the addiction? You or Allah? Allah's going to help you, sir. He's the one that's created you in the first place. He's the one that owns you. He's the one that's going to help you. When you send salawat from the Prophet ﷺ, Allah helps you remedy those problems in your life and those afflictions. You see, when you take it on your own hands and say, it's fine, I'm not saying not to go to the doctor. Go to the doctor, seek help, seek the asbab and causes. But you forget the musabbib of the asbab themselves. You forget the creator of those causes themselves. He's stronger than the causes. He has more power than those causes themselves. So yeah, take those medicines, but at the same time, your reliance is with Allah. Your reliance is with those who place that remedy in that thing in the first place. And so from the remedies is worship, is salah, and is salawat on the Prophet himself.
The repudiate's aim is to distract him from concentrating on God and approaching Him.
We don't need shaitan, do we though? We've got this little shaitan here as well. Shaitan's job is easy in the modern world. We've got so many distractions. He doesn't need to really distract us anymore. Like, oh yeah, such and such Shaykh, he's done this now, and we're all on it like, what's he done? Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, and then that's happened, and the next scandal happens, and we all want to know what's going on, and then we're all secretly following everyone else's profile, see, oh yeah, she's gone to Istanbul, has she? Do you know what I mean? I'm sure she went the other day. We all keeping tabs on each other, and that's how we do. And all these uncles sending videos to each other, and you know, keeping them busy, and this Imran Khan videos and politics, and this. It's too many distractions, huh? Distraction after distraction. Next thing you know, your life will have ended, and you spent it all on WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram. Do you know what I mean? The one who is clever uses it for his own benefit and manages to put it away when he realizes that it's not being beneficial for me right now. It's not advantageous for my life. So if you're running a business and you had customers, you wouldn't use it, would you? But I've got customers, I've got people waiting for me, I need to put it down. You know, I'm going to lose money. I'm going to work till 8, I've not got time to talk to you right now. But when it comes to deen, you're like, oh, I'm busy, I've got to speak to someone, I've got stuff to do. This is the nafs, the machinations of what? Shaitan himself. You're not busy. You fool yourself to be busy. You need to treat Islam the way you treat something else that's very serious in your life. The way you treat that, and even more. That's when you become, Allah starts taking you seriously as well. Before that, you're faking it. Honestly, you're faking it because you can't sacrifice anything for the sake of Allah. So why should Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you victory? Tansurullah yansurkum. So we mentioned over and over again, when you give victory to Allah, Allah gives victory to yourself. So when you say that, khalas, I'm going to put this away now, I'm going to go pray Isha tonight. That's when the meanings, and you start feeling Muslim and mu'min and someone who submitted themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
If a person misses these, he will also miss God's approach to him and may even come out of his prayer burdened with sins. This is why the scholars, may God have mercy on them, recommended that one about to enter his prayer recite Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas as a protection against Satan. You must not confine yourself to the same surahs at the same times, except when indicated in the law, as for instance, Surah As-Sajda, the prostration, and Al-Insan, man, on Friday mornings. You must also take care not to confine yourself to short surahs such as Al-Kafirun, Al-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq, and Al-Nas if you lead the congregation and Al-Nas. If you lead the congregational prayer, you should make it brief, as is recommended in the hadith of Mu'adh, may God be pleased with him, who once led a prayer and prolonged it so much that a man went to the Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam and complained. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, "Are you a worker of sedition, O Mu'adh? Recite سبح اسم ربك الأعلى والشمس وضحاها والليل إذا يغشى." Anyone who looks into the books of hadith will recognize the truth of what has been said, of what we have said. It has been related that the last prayer that the Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam led was a sunset prayer in which he recited "Wal mursalati urfan," and God guides whom He wills to a straight path.
So here in the hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says to Mu'adh, "Fattan anta," are you someone who sows discord? Because he made it so long that he started praying as far as Surah Al-Baqarah, one of these long surahs, and one of the people praying, one of the Sahaba, he came out of Salah and he complained to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Look, we've got jobs, we've got things to do, we've got farms that we look after, and the prayers are too long." And so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told Mu'adh radiallahu anhu that keep the prayer brief, don't prolong it to a level where it becomes difficult for people. So the fuqaha here, they generally, the focus is on making things easy and palatable and not making it so in all the rulings, so this falls into other rulings as well, is to make things in a way where it doesn't it encourages people to engage acts of worship, and it doesn't discourage people from acts. So if you say Taraweeh is another example. If you've only got 2-3 hours to pray Taraweeh, you need to pray in a way that encourages people to attend. So this is what we call wisdom, hikmah, tamam? So from the tenets of iftar is wisdom. So you can't give iftar unless you're someone who's wise. You can't do it. So we have 80% of people engaging in iftar. There's no wisdom in the fatwa itself. So if I go into the book and say, the Prophet ﷺ said this, or there's a certain faqih said this, that's fine, but it has to be applicable. The meaning of the sunnah, so I know it's a bit deep, but the meaning of the sunnah is the sunnah itself. So what the Prophet ﷺ wanted is the sunnah, not the statement of the faqih, do you understand? It's what the Prophet ﷺ wanted in the situation is the sunnah itself. So here it's ease, yusr, to make things easy for the congregation. You see, you can then go home and pray 1,000 units by yourselves. You're free to do that. But when it's with congregation and you have a mix of people, the old, the children, if they're allowed in the mosque, people with different types of patience and endurance, then you must cater for everyone. Tamam? And the masajid themselves, they must also cater for everyone, whether we like it or not. In this day and age, the masajid must cater for children, the masajid must cater for adults, women, men, everyone. Tamam? Because it's lillah, and you can't bar people from remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're living in a society, as we mentioned this before, where there's a place for women to go to, so they have their own what we call musalla, like in certain places, and they gather there and they have majalis, and well, khalas, they'll go there, and the masajid may not become as important for them. But in this day and age, there's nowhere for them to go. If you go to, there's like that Eid play thing that happened in Oldham, and there's just women and children and there's music back, and it's just, we let them go here, sit on rides, everything. There's guys and his husband, there's like this ride that goes round and round, and there's uncle with his wife on it, they're going around really fast and stuff, and I found it really funny. But it's fine, that's fine, but don't come to the masjid. I mean, that's just stupid. It's like, don't come to the masjid, but you come everywhere else. That's not what the fuqaha talked about. The fitna that the fuqaha talked about was this stuff. So if you're going to make that, you're going to prohibit all that, then you have to prohibit it blankly everywhere else also. You obviously you can't do this on all of it. But the thing is, you can't survive like that. So to create spaces where women can actually engage the Sharia, learn about the Sharia, and bring them closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the kullu mamduh, it's all praiseworthy. It's all praiseworthy. You see, if you ask some men, they'll complain that, look, we hear talks all the time. We go to the mosque on Friday. But there's my wife, she doesn't listen to anything because she's at home cooking in the kitchen all day long. She doesn't listen to the khutbah on Friday. Neither does she go and have any circles that she attends. So she's not being reminded. So you've got the husband who's been constantly reminding, but then you've got the wife who's not being reminded. So you've got to make sure that as a family, there are spaces that you can all go to. And then you've got all these sort of super macho Asian men who just want to be like, my wife's not going anywhere, she's going to sit at home and she's not going to do anything and stuff like that. You take her with you at least once in the week to a majlis or somewhere or to a class or something where you both can be reminded, or to a mawli, wherever it is. It's important. You have to make your family grow together. You can't be on one level and your wife is somewhere on another level. It doesn't work like that. You are responsible for your wife being taught Islam. If she can't find it in you and you can't teach her the fara'id, she's allowed without your consent to leave the house and go and seek for knowledge. Again, a little caveat here, it doesn't mean you can go abroad by yourself though. There's enough people who can teach you Fara'id here. It doesn't mean you have to go all the way to Yemen to seek for their knowledge. That's not what it means here, tamam. You must make sure that you stick within the guidelines of the Sharia. The point is that you're responsible, just like you're responsible for teaching your children. But before we move on, just because we're talking about Salah, we've only got 5 minutes, so there's no point starting a new chapter. If I look at some of the meanings of Salah, what does the word Salah mean, and some of the anecdotes mentioned regarding Salah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Hafidhu ala salawati was salatil wusta. Says, be protective or preserve the prayers. Was salatil wusta. Here, salatul wusta is considered generally salatul asr, the middle prayer, salatul asr. Tamam, wa qumu lillahi qaniteen. And stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in devotion or with devotion. Qunut is like to seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sort of mercy and asking for His forgiveness. Tamam. وقال تعالى وأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة. That's salah and zakah. So you have what? Islam, if you were to define Islam, it is huququllah wa huququl ibad, is the rights of Allah and the rights of people. And in salah and zakah, there's an indication towards that. That Islam is what? As-salah, fulfill the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa atu zakah, fulfill the rights of the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tamam? وقال تعالى إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. That salah is what has been established for you at certain times, prescribed times. You can't pray whenever you like. And from this ayah, the Hanafiya say that there's no jama' between salahs. There's no jama' between what asr and dhuhr. La jama'. There's no combining prayers in the Hanafi school except in Hajj, where you combine dhuhr and asr on the day of Arafah, and you combine maghrib and isha on the day of Muzdalifah. Khalas. Apart from that, there's no combining of prayers in our madhab. Tamam? وَاخْتَلَفُوا فِي اشْتِقَاقِ اسْمِ الصَّلَاةِ. This is what does salah mean itself. So here, there's 4 different meanings of the word salah itself. Tamam? The first one, it says min ad-du'a. It's from supplication, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, min ad-du'a. وَتَسْمِيَةُ الصَّلَاءِ دُعَاءً مَعْرُوفًا فِي كَلَامِ الْعَرَبِ. The Arab would use the word salah to mean dua. So it was something that the Arabs used, the word salah itself for the word dua. فَسُمِّيَتِ الصَّلَاةُ صَلَاةً لِمَا فِيهَا مِنَ الدُّعَاءِ. And so salah itself is called salah because of the dua that it is comprised of with. When you say Allah Rabbi gfirli wa liwalidayya wa lil mu'minina yawma yaqumul hisab. The dua, the supplications involved in salah, so they gave salah the name salah because it comprises of dua. وَقَالَتْ سُمِّيَتْ بِذَلِكَ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. So the first one they said was dua. The second is what? Rahmah, mercy. قال الله تعالى إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي. So here, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, yusalluna Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the salah of Allah is what? Rahmah, mercy. So salah here is dua, and salah here is what? Rahmah. And from what? From malaikata istighfar. And from the angels is what? Istighfar. When they do salah ala nabi, the angels are seeking forgiveness, not forgiveness from sins, but it's an increase in rank for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And for us, we are making dua when we're doing salah, when we're sending salawat from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala ali Abi Awfa. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, he said, Allahumma salli. He says, oh Allah, send salutation. He doesn't mean salutations here, salli. He means irham al Abi Awfa. That have mercy upon the family of Abi Awfa. Here in the hadith, tamam. So here we take the meaning that salah means rahmah. So it means dua, and it can also mean rahmah. وَقِيلَ سُمِّيَتْ بِذَلِكَ مِنَ الْإِسْتِقَامَةِ. That is also taken from the word istiqamah, to be upright. To be upright. Don't mean upright as in being standing upright, meaning as in being firm upon the truth. Istiqamah. لماذا? Why? So when you say صَلَّيْتَ الْعُودَ. So in Arabic, if I say صَلَّيْتَ الْعُودَ from salah, صَلَّيْتَ الْعُودَ, a stick. If I say you've made the stick, صَلَّيْتَ الْعُودَ, in Arabic means that you've straightened the stick. Tamam, you straighten the stick. So here, with three meanings we've done so far. Dua, rahmah, and istiqamah is to be upright. Tamam. وَالصَّلَاةُ تُقِيمُ الْعَبْدِ. And salah what? تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. It keeps you away from what? Evil things. So here, salah is also given the meaning of istiqamah, because it tuqimul ab. It keeps the servant upright and straight, away from sin. وَتَنْهَاهُ مِنْ وَقَالَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ وَقِيلَ لِأَنَّهَا صِلَةٌ. So the fourth meaning of salah is sila. Sila is what? To be connected. Ittisal, to have a connection. Tamam? So the connection between al-abdi wa rabbih, between the slave and his Lord. وعن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, علم الإيمان الصلاة. That the sign of Iman is Salah itself. علم الإيمان الصلاة. فمن فرغ لها قلبه, the one who keeps his heart free for it, as in he has a place for Salah in his heart. Naam, وَحَافَظَ عَلَيْهَا, and he's persistent or consistent and preserves salah. So today I pray, tomorrow I won't pray. La, salah has a role in his life. He's consistent upon salah. Naam, بِحُدُودِهَا فَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ. The one, then he is what? The Prophet ﷺ says, فَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ, for he's a believer. وعن عمر بن الخطاب, Umar رضي الله عنه, is reported to have said, قال وهو على المنبر, that he's on the minbar of the إن الرجل ليشيب عرضاه في الإسلام, that both his cheeks become what? Grey in Islam as he becomes old. He lives to a ripe age, and he says he's a Muslim. وما أكمل الله تعالى صلاة وما أكمل لله تعالى صلاة, that he doesn't manage to perfect one prayer for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obviously there's discussion on the veracity of this statement, but the meaning is true, that there are people who live 60, 70, 80 years, but they've not managed to pray one prayer completely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's full of naqs, deficiencies. وَقِيلَ وَكَيْفَ ذَلِكَ. And he says, how is that? قَالَ لا يتم ركوعها وسجودها وخشوعها, that he doesn't perfect his sajda and his ruku and the khushu in prayer. Khushu in prayer, and the khushu is translated literally as being what? Humility. But it's not humility on its own. It's humility, it's fear, it's veneration, it's respect, it's feeling the presence of Allah, it's being present with Allah. All these meanings combined gives the word khushu. وَتَوَاضُؤُهُ وَإِقْبَالُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ فِيهَا, and his humbleness and he's turning towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in prayer. As in those meanings are absent in his prayer. وقالت عائشة, and a different state, Aisha radiallahu anhu says, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يحدثنا ويحدثه ونحدثه, that he would speak to us and we would speak to him, as in we would converse. فإذا حضرت الصلاة, but if the iqamah happened for salah, as in the time of salah came, فكأنه لم يعرفنا ولم نعرفه, as if he didn't know us and we didn't know him, as in he was somebody else. Shows the magnitude of prayer. It's not something small. This is the oath between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who have prayer, their oath remains. Those who don't have prayer, then it's khalas. It's as if you're on murky waters here. It's as, do you believe or do you not? How can you not pray? That's the situation at hand here. Tamam? وقيل للحسن ما بال المتهجدين, says, what's up with those who pray tahajjud? من أحسن الناس وجوها, they have the most radiant of faces. فقال لأنهم حلوا بالرحمن, they beautified themselves with Ar-Rahman, as in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَأَلْبَسَهُمْ نُورًا, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clothed them with a light. مِن نُورِهِ, from the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَقَالَ بَعْدُهُمْ لَا تَفُوتُ أَحَدًا صَلَاةً فِي جَمَاعَةٍ إِلَّا بِذَنْبٍ, that nobody misses what? A prayer in congregation except for a sin that he commits. So you see, when you see someone who's consistent upon Salatul Jama'ah, that's a good sign. When we can't make it to Salatul Jama'ah, not necessarily in the masajid, just praying in congregation, then it's a sign that there are sins that we need to make repentance for. وَكَانَتْ رَابِيَةُ الْعَدَوِيَّةِ, Rabia al-Adawiyya, the great ascetic and the great saint, she would say, or she would pray, تصلي في اليوم والليلة, every single day and night she would pray ألف ركعة, 1,000 units. وتقول, and she would say, والله ما أريد بها ثوابا, I don't want reward for these prayers. What does she want? ولكن ليسر ذلك, but to make content or to give happiness in praying all these, to who? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that she prayed 1,000 units, Yawm wa layla, day and night, just to make the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam happy. وَيَقُولُ لِلْأَنْبِيَاءِ عَلَيْهِمُ الصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ انظُرُوا, and so he, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, would say to the other prophets, انظُرُوا, look, إِلَى إِمْرَأَةٍ مِّنْ أُمَّتِي, a woman from my nation. These are the women of before that you need to follow. These are the women that you need to follow. انظروا إلى امرأة من أمتي, look at a woman from my nation. هذا عملها في اليوم والليلة. The Prophet يتفاخر, he boasts and says, this woman, look, her amal, the actions that she does every single day and night. وقال بعضهم صليت خلف ذنون المصري. And we end on this one, says صليت خلف ذنون المصري, says I prayed behind ذنون المصري, one of the great awliya. فلما أراد أن يكبر, when he wanted to raise his hand and say the takbir, رفع يديه, he raised his hand, وقال الله ثم بهت. And then he said Allah, and then he sort of just became stupefied, as in all of a sudden he just became like still. وَبَقَى كَأَنَّهُ جَسَدٌ, and he remained as if he was form, as in body, لَا رُوحَ فِيهِ, without any ruh within it, without any spirit, as in he was totally still, nothing, as if he's dead, he's just totally still. This meaning here is why some of the fuqaha of the Hanafiya said, what? Adam tahriq al-musabbaha in tashahhud, that even though there's a hadith for raising the finger, the early fuqaha in the Hanafi school said it's mamnu to raise the finger in tashahhud. لماذا؟ لأن المعنى في الصلاة, the meaning in salah is what? Khushu, stillness, total stillness. They considered the sunnah to be not to move in salah. Be totally still, not move anything in salah. This is fiqh. You see, when people say, oh, fiqh is boring, la, fiqh is one of the hardest sciences you'll ever study, because what is the sunnah? How are you going to work out what the sunnah is? The early fuqaha said, al-ma'na aham min al-hadith. Because the meaning of the hadith is one. The hadith meaning is one. The asal bina, what we call what the ruling is based on, is not the hadith. It's a combination of meanings found in the Quran, Sunnah, the lives of the Sahaba. Together, the faqih will tell you the Sunnah is this, not the hadith in Bukhari. The Sunnah is this meaning here, and all rulings must be based on the meaning here. And if you base it on this meaning, asabta Sunnah, you hit the Sunnah. But if you base it on a hadith, there could be another hadith, there could be another meaning found somewhere else, and you've actually khalaf the Sunnah. You've actually opposed the Sunnah. You've acted in contrary to the Sunnah. And fiqh, real fiqh, is what tells you what that is, what the Sunnah is here, what the meaning here is that you want to achieve. So he says, وَقِيلَ بَعْدُهُمْ now ثُمَّ بَعَثَ كَأَنَّهُ جَسَدْ بِلَا رُوحٍ, like a form without any ruh, فِيهِ إِعْظَامًا لِرَبِّهِ, out of veneration for his Lord. جَلَّ وَعَلَى ثُمَّ قَالَ اللَّهُ أَكْبَرُ. Then he said, Allahu Akbar, فَظَنَنْتُ أَنَّ قَلْبِي إِنْ خَلَأَ مِنْ هَيْبَةِ تَكْبِيرِهِ. That is as if when he said Allahu Akbar, that my heart literally came out of the sort of veneration and the majesty of the way he said Allahu Akbar. And here that's why the ulama say not to prolong the Allah in Allahu Akbar, in a takbir. Not to say Allahu Akbar. Because what? Jam'an lil qalb, that when you say Allahu Akbar, that your heart what? It sort of comes at that moment on, focuses straight away on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of these meanings are found in what? In our books, in our discourses, in our ulama. They've discussed all of these things. All it needs is takers. People who are going to learn the religion, take it, live it, and become from those who will what? Enter into Jannah happy, smiling. In the hadith I'll share, Nu'ayman, he's one of those companions. They say, قِيلَ يَدْخُلُ الْجَنَّةِ وَهُوَ يَضْحَكُ. Says he'll enter into Jannah and he'll be laughing. Because he was from what? Those, you've got nothing to do with Salah this, but he has a little bit of Salah, but just to give you a little bit of an admonition, that you can have a good time in Islam. It's not all serious. See, Nu'ayman was the one who used to make the other Sahaba laugh, and he was like the sort of joker and the jest of the Prophet ﷺ, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. He said one day, Nu'ayman, he said there was another companion, Makhrama ibn Nawfal, I think he's called. He was blind, and he needed a guide to take him, he said, to pass water, as in go to the toilet. So Nu'ayman said, I'll take you. He didn't know it was Nu'ayman. He said, oh yeah, I'll take you. He said, can somebody take me? And so Nu'ayman took him. Where did he take him? Took him to the masjid. And then the Sahabi took him to like one of the corners in the masjid, and he started peeing. And so everyone was, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? He says, I want to go to the toilet. He said, who showed you? Who was the guide? He said, Nu'ayman. And he says, oh, if I get Nu'ayman, he said, I'm going to hit him on the head with this stick. Then he goes, Nu'ayman later finds him, and he doesn't say Nu'ayman. He says, Ya Abul Munawwar. He says, he calls him by his name, and he says, I heard you're looking for Nu'ayman. Do you want me to take him to you? He says, yeah, take him. I've got stuff to sort out with him. Little does he know that it's Nu'ayman. He goes, yeah, I'll take you. He's in the masjid. He doesn't say he's in the masjid, but he takes him to the masjid and says, here he is. And then he goes, this Sahabi says that he hits this person praying in the masjid, and he goes, the guy obviously starts screaming, and he says, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm hitting Nu'ayman. He goes, this is Uthman ibn Affan. You're hitting on that. He goes, this is not Nu'ayman, this is Uthman ibn Affan. And he goes, who told me? Who this? He goes, Nu'ayman told you. He goes, Wallahi, after this day, I'm not going to do anything with Nu'ayman. I'm going to just leave him to it. Meaning, there's a place for all of us in Islam. There's a time to be serious. There's a time to be, but what I'm asking for everyone here is, this is your legacy. These are your companions. These are your prophets. This is your Quran. This is not something you can just be like, I don't want to do it. I'm not interested. This is not about that. we are all gonna die soon. We will all be placed in the grave. You on your own, nobody else, not your dad, mum, brother, sister, daughter, nobody. But you know who will come in the grave? The Prophet ﷺ may come in the grave, and he may help you in the grave. And the awliya may enter the grave, and their souls and their spirits may help you in the grave. Tamam? The angels may enter the grave, your a'mal enter the grave. These are the things that will give you solace in the grave. So the more you engage this world with that attitude, the happier because those who laugh the last or have the last laugh, they're the ones who won. And this is Quranic. إِنَّهُ كَانَ فِي أَهْلِهِ مَسْرُورًا. That Allah says those who enter hell, they were what? They used to jest and mock with their family, as in, have a good laugh and forget about deen. But then Allah says those who go to Jannah, سَيَنْقَلِبُ فِي أَهْلِهِ مَسْرُورًا. That he will become happy in the end, even though he may not be happy. He will be happy in Jannah. Sayanqalibu, as in he will end up becoming happy, even though he's in what? Trial and tribulation here. Tamam? So it's not about having all fun and enjoyment in life in this dunya. It's not about that. It's about ending up happy. That's the difference between us and those who don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're not about enjoying ourselves to the max in this world. We're about making Allah and His Messenger happy so that we end up happy in the other world. Tamam? وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. نعم. Inshallah, have you finished? I don't think anyone has any questions. Anyone got any questions? One.
So with the prayer times, like for example, like Asr has a first start and a second start. During the summer months, it's quite easy, to pray because you're not really at work or whatever have you. But when it gets to like sort of winter periods, the quite obviously join together.
No.
Are we allowed to sort of mix and match between the first and the second of Asr? Because just so that you can get it in because of work purposes or other commitments, driving, etc., so on and so forth. It's sometimes quite difficult to pray. So are we in a position that we can like mix and match the first and the second? Just for Asr, obviously.
In general, you can't mix and match, tamam. You can't mix and match times. You have to follow one time, tamam. In a traditional Islamic country, whatever the government decides or whatever the bodies decide, you follow that time. So if you were in a place that followed one Asr time, you follow that time. If you went to a different place and they prayed Asr at an earlier time, you follow that time, tamam. Because al-Qadi yarfa'u khilaf, the judge, he removes all disagreement. But obviously here, you're free, quote unquote, to decide. So here, ideally, really, you should be following only one time here, tamam. So problem is if you say, oh well, I go work, so I can't pray, and I'll just pray. What happens is you end up, it's what we discussed last time, you end up becoming the one that makes these decisions, like what's right and what's wrong. So here, you could go to, say, a Shafi'i scholar, and you can ask him as an Ammi, as a commoner, and if he tells you that, yes, you can pray Asr at this time, and you can pray Asr at that time. But from my perspective, I wouldn't be able to say to you to pray Asr at an earlier time, because it's not what the school says. That for us, Asr is at Imam Abu Hanifa's time, which is the later. If I follow an earlier time, then I must follow that time all the time. Because what you will do is you pray Asr early, then the weekend you might pray Dhuhr at that time and pray Asr later because you've gone out and now you need to pray Asr later and need to pray Dhuhr. That's why you can't do that, because now you've given the reins to your own nafs to decide what's right and what's wrong. So if you go to a Shafi'i scholar and say, you can follow the earlier time Asr, then you must then follow the Salah time based on what he's given you. Understand? As in, you must then follow all the times that are according to his position, meaning Fajr, Zuhr, Asr, all of it. Tamam? Don't mix and match between madhahib, because this is what we call talfiq. So try and follow one position all the time. if he, again, I'm not going to give you this, but if you go to a mufti and he does give you a fatwa, then that's between him and Allah. As in, that's, he can, if you, but I wouldn't be able to give you that fatwa here to say, you know, you can do X, Y, Z. I have to go to someone more senior to say, you know, I've got this issue, you know, give you a specific issue that I've got work, I literally can't pray, can I follow the earlier time in Asr, and he may give you that ijazah permission. No, otherwise, don't mix and match. You can't mix and match between madhahib. Always try and stick to one madhab. Tamam? Or you go to someone that you trust, a scholar that you trust, and you follow his opinion. You know he's a Hanafi or Shafi, it doesn't matter, but you trust him and you follow his position on these masai because you're a commoner. If you become a talib ilm, so you have a commoner, you have a talib ilm, and you have ulama. The commoner, his madhab is the madhab of the mufti. Whatever the mufti tells him, that's what he follows. The responsibility is on the teacher, not you, because you're a commoner. You're a businessman, whatever you come to learn, that's what you trust him. It's his responsibility now what he teaches you. Once you enter the realm of what we call tullab ilm, you become a student. Here you must stick to a madhab. Here you're not a commoner any longer. You must stick to one madhab. Either you're Hanafi, Shafi, Malik, you're Hanbali. There's no other fifth madhab. There's no mixing of madhahib. The only place you can then come out of the madhab is if there's darura, if there's hardship, necessity, but you can't decide that. You can't define what's a hardship. It's the fuqaha who will decide what's a hardship. So you can't just say, oh well, the fast is too long now, I can't do, it's a hardship here, darura. That's not a darura fiqhiyya. You can't say, oh, I'm going to get riba or whatever, usually because it's really hard. You don't decide what's hard. Hardship in fiqh is loss of life and limb. You either die or you lose a limb. If you're not going to die or lose a limb, there's no darura there. So it's not you that defines what's hard and what's not hard, and oh yeah, someone's going to like insult me, or you know, I might get. That's not necessarily what fiqh-wise, what is darura. So it's a complicated topic. Inshallah we talk about it more, but this is why ilm is, you need to learn. You can't learn from just coming once a month to a majlis. You have to regularly be associating yourself in circles of knowledge, because each circle of knowledge, different teachers, the more knowledge that you gain and accumulate, but there is a big problem, I'm sorry to end on this, is that sticking to a madhab is not ta'assub. It's not like being fanatical. Why these lot fanatical? They don't follow the hadith. They follow the no. Following a madhab is vital. You have to take yourself out of the picture, and the only way you will end up acting is if you're not deciding. It's like going to Asda and you've got 5 different choices of the same chocolate. You could spend 10 minutes deciding, do I want this one, or that one, or what's going to happen. Instead of eating the chocolate, you just sat there deciding, oh, I don't know, maybe this one's too expensive, and this one's like this one's on offer, and da. In the end, you get nothing and you walk out. The madhahib, they've done the job for you. Instead of you spending half an hour, 5 days trying to work out what's sunnah and what's not, and shall I pray and what time, you're not actually praying now, you're not doing anything. You're just philosophizing and you're like, this is right and that's not right, and they pray like this and that. That's not your job. They've already told you, pray like this, these are fara'id, these are wajibat, these are sunnah. Don't worry about it. Move on. Point is, you need to pray, you need to fast, not philosophize about how to pray, where to put the hands and do this. So in then what do? You don't pray, you don't fast, you don't, because you're like, I don't know how to pray, I don't do this, and do that, I do that. But that's not your job. That's the job of the ulama who reached a certain degree. That's their realm to research and sort out. Most of us, we just need to act. So don't let fiqh and these things, so obviously it's a tangent of what you said, become an obstacle. Don't let it become an obstacle. Wallahu a'lam. No. No.
You know, so we just read in this chapter about the 2 rak'ah that you should pray when you enter the masjid. Say, for instance, you're going for Friday prayer and the khutbah is going on. So some mosques, they sometimes prolong the khutbah. They'll do it maybe in Arabic, Urdu, English as well. Can you pray when when there's
The first speech in whether in English or Urdu is not the
It's not.
khutbah. You can pray whatever you want. They might not like it, but yeah, you know, yeah, that's someone's been told. But that's not the khutbah. So you can do whatever you want at that stage. As in do whatever you want. As in you can pray salah at that stage if you want to, tamam. Because it's not the khutbah. It's a speech. Again, you could say, okay, it's better not to because some guy's talking. You should sit and listen, but you can't. It's not. There's no sin involved in it also. When the khutbah starts itself, there's no salah, there's no kalam, no salah, there's nothing when the sermon starts itself on the mimbar. Tamam? So obviously traditionally there was no speech before the khutbah. Tamam? This is actually it's an innovation. You can argue whether it's a good one, bad one, but there is no speech before. You have the khutbah and you have the salah, and then the imam comes out. Traditionally he'll come out and he goes straight on the mimbar. He doesn't use these speeches and stuff like that. And when the imam comes out, everyone is meant to stay silent. Khalas, now there's no speech, there's no talk, nothing. You just listen now and you wait for the imam to do his thing, basically. Tamam? So some people, the Shafis, they allow you to pray Tahiyatul Masjid when the imam is doing his sermon. In our madhab, you can't do that. So you can't just. I've seen people go up, the imam will be on the mimbar doing khutbah, and one guy literally get up and start praying salah in front of him. That's totally prohibited in our madhab, because the amal of the time is what? To listen. So the time for this, time for that. Here now is not to pray, the time is to listen. When the Quran is recited, go and to listen attentively. So this is again what we call fiqh, meaning understanding the religion, not fiqh as in rules. Tamam? Is understanding how the religion works. Yalla, we end here. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Bismillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for everybody coming and God bless you all. Bless Brother Ahmed and family and Shaykh Siddiq. Jazakallah khair. I'm going to eat now, inshallah ta'ala, so no one leaves, and then we'll pray Maghrib soon after, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Just make 2 rows as per usual, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
When the restricted, yeah, we do. Yeah, wait.